What's going on, guys? This is SG1 Sports, and I have to make a little bit of an adjustment to last night's video, the Playoff Eliminator. I did make a couple of errors on that video, so I'm going to get to those in just a minute. But first of all, I need to set the record straight on something. So several people, I don't know if they're all Georgia fans, but several of you all said that it seems like I have something against Georgia. I hate Georgia, and calling me a Georgia hater, all this stuff. And let me just set the record straight. All right, last season, I picked Georgia to win the SEC East. I believe I had them at 10-2, and obviously they didn't live up to those expectations. So yeah, I thought they were going to be pretty good. This season, I said multiple times that Georgia had the most talent in the SEC East. I didn't pick them to win the East just because of the way last year went. And I didn't want to, get all hyped up on them and then the same thing happened. So I didn't pick them to win the East, but I said multiple times that Georgia had the most talent of any team in the SEC East, and if they played up to their potential, they would win the East easily. Okay, so I said that. Also, after like the first week or two in the season, I had Georgia in my top 10 when nobody else did. The AP poll, the coaches poll, did not have them in the top 10. People were commenting on my videos, why are you so high on Georgia? Georgia's not that good. Who does Georgia beat? Okay, so I've been high on this Georgia team from the beginning, and then I've got them at number 4 in my top 25 poll, and arguably I could say maybe they should even be at number 3. Maybe they should be ahead of Penn State. Okay, so we've got them there. I've got them at number 2 in my SEC power rankings, ahead of Auburn. So all this stuff, just looking at my track record, I've been very high on Georgia. I've had a lot of positive things to say. Now, I came out and said that maybe they're not on the level of Alabama. Well, I don't think many people are going to argue with that. They're really not. That doesn't mean they can't beat Alabama. I think they got a real good shot to beat Alabama if they meet in the SEC championship. I think it'll be an excellent game. But as far as just overall, are they on that level, that Alabama level? No, they're not. Neither is Auburn. But I think Auburn's got a great shot to beat Alabama as well. Okay, so on my Playoff Eliminator last night, and I didn't realize that Georgia fans were so sensitive. One guy actually unsubscribed from the channel because he thought I was hating on Georgia or whatever. But let me just get to the thought process of this Playoff Eliminator and what I was doing, and then maybe you'll understand why I didn't have Georgia as a top contender. And also, I did make a couple of mistakes, and I'm going to fix those here on this video. So let's get to the video, to the Playoff Eliminator, and this is what I had as my top contenders on last night's video. Alright, so I did make a mistake. This is what it looked like last night. I had Alabama and Auburn on the top contenders, Clemson, Ohio State, Penn State, Washington, and TCU. So my thought process on this was Alabama will play Auburn. The winner is going to represent the SEC. Clemson is going to get there. The winner of Ohio State and Penn State is going to get there. And then the committee would either pick between Washington and TCU, or one of those teams is going to lose and eliminate themselves. And this is what the playoff picture would look like. Okay, so that is what I was thinking in my head, but I made a mistake. But the mistake was not that I left Georgia off. The mistake was that I put Auburn on here on the top contenders. And let me explain how that's going to work. Okay, so to be on this list, all these teams will be favored in every game the rest of the season except for maybe one. They'll have maybe one game where they're not the favorite. For example, maybe Penn State won't be favored on the road at Ohio State. Auburn probably won't be favored on the road at home against Alabama. But Auburn will be favored against Georgia, and that's not just my opinion. You can look at ESPN's FPI. It gives Auburn, I think, about a 60% chance of winning that game. The spread will go right along with that. If it was today, now things could change. Auburn could lose, Georgia could lose, and that could, a lot of things could change. But we're just looking at this right now. So my thought process was that Auburn would be favored over Georgia, and they'd be an underdog in one game against Alabama. But as I said, if Auburn did run the table, win those games, they would then have to play Georgia again in the SEC championship, and they probably wouldn't be favored that time. So Auburn will be underdogs probably in 2 games. Therefore, they do not belong on the top contenders. And here is why Georgia does not belong on the top contenders. And it's for this pretty much the same reason. Georgia will not be favored against Auburn, at least based off of right now. Again, things could change, but if you look at ESPN's FPI, again, Georgia only has, I think, like a 40% chance to win that game, and the spread will go it'll go along with that, I'm sure. So they won't be favored against Auburn. They also won't be favored against Alabama in the SEC championship. So Georgia, underdogs in 2 games. That's why they don't belong on here. This is not the top teams. These are not my top teams. Go to my top 25 poll if you want to see my top teams. I have Georgia at number 4. I think they're the 4th best team in college football right now. Maybe even number 3. I think it's very close with them in Penn State. But that's not what this is. This has more to do with the path of getting to the playoffs. Washington and TCU both have pretty easy paths. Ohio State and Penn State, besides the matchup they have against each other, have pretty easy paths. I know nobody has a really easy path. I mean, Clemson still has NC State. And so, yeah, that is what this is. This is not a top 25 poll. This is not the top teams or anything like that. I think people misunderstood that. Again, if you want to see what I think about each team and where I rank each team, go ahead. Go look at my top 25 poll. I have Georgia at number 4. So that's why I don't have Georgia on here. And to update this, I would now move Auburn off of my top contenders. So now these are the new top contenders. And again, it's based off of who I think has the biggest potential to get there. And you know what? Alabama could lose to Auburn, and they're still very likely to get in. So they are like the surest bets to get in the playoffs because they don't have to beat Auburn. I think they probably get in anyways, especially if Auburn slips up and loses another game. And then Auburn doesn't get in, but we could get 2 SEC teams in very easily this year if Washington and TCU, if one of those or both of those teams slip up, which could very well happen. So here are the teams now that are still in control. So I've moved Auburn down to be in this group, and yeah, Georgia and Auburn I think are better than Washington State, Miami, and Wisconsin, but they have a tough road ahead. And it's based off of that, is that's why these teams are grouped together. So hopefully that'll make sense. And you could also maybe argue that Wisconsin should be on the top contenders. They do have to play Michigan, but other than that, they probably really just have the Big Ten championship game. So you could definitely make an argument there for them. Miami still has a tough road ahead. Notre Dame potentially against Clemson in the ACC championship. So that is the thought process. Also, I made another mistake. Utah, I accidentally eliminated them. They only have 1 loss. I don't know why I thought they had 2 losses. But they should belong here in the needs help group. These teams all need some help to get to the playoffs. And somebody said Michigan State controls their own destiny. I'm sorry, but they do not, because Notre Dame is going to be ahead of them if they finish with 1 loss. An undefeated TCU, an undefeated Washington is going to be ahead of them probably. So all these teams some of them just need a little bit of help. Like, they're probably going to get in if they win out, but some of them need a lot of help, like a team like Kentucky or Virginia. But okay, so hopefully that clears everything up. Hopefully you guys understand exactly the process in this video. When I have the top teams, when I have my top contenders, those are not the best teams. Those are not the teams that I think are the best teams. Those are the teams that have the best chance of getting to the playoffs based off of their remaining schedule and other factors like that. So hopefully, again, that clears things up. And hopefully you all don't think that I hate Georgia. I have nothing against Georgia on this channel. I am completely neutral with everything on this channel. Now, as a fan, I'm not crazy about Georgia. Most of you know I'm an Auburn fan. But I absolutely hate Alabama. So for you to come on here and say that I show favoritism for Alabama over anybody, that's just crazy, because as a fan, I'm telling you, I absolutely hate Alabama. I hope they lose every game. I'm an Auburn fan. I mean, that's just the way it is. But on this channel, I keep everything neutral. I block out the fan stuff. And like I said, some of you are going to say, well, why do you have Auburn so high if you're an Auburn fan? Well, if you look back in the past, last year I never had them high. I predicted them to go 8-4. So I have a pretty good ability to keep things neutral and block all that stuff out. So some of you are going to disagree with me, whatever, that's fine. And when you leave the comments like you do, that is perfectly fine. You guys had a point with Georgia. I don't think, everybody that said all this stuff about Georgia, you've got a point. I can see how you would think that I have something against Georgia based off of things that I've said. but I think you just really misunderstood this video and kind of the process of putting those teams in the different tiers. It's not about who I think is the best team. It's about who has the best chance to get to the playoffs. So again, hopefully that clears things up. Go ahead and leave your comments down below. Again, it is perfectly fine to disagree with me. That is 100% okay. I like, having conversations with all of you. I try to always respond to your comments, and I'm not perfect. I'm not going to be right about everything, and I don't think, nobody is. That's just the way things are. And there's been times when you have commented and told me something and kind of opened up my eyes to take a second look at a particular thing, a particular team, a particular player, something like that. So I learn from you all as well, and those comments are always fun to respond to. And just please keep it clean. If you're on here cussing and stuff, a lot of times I will delete your comments. If you've noticed, I don't cuss at all in my videos. There's a lot of reasons for that, but I'm not going to get into that. So yeah, I'm just going to wrap this one up. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more. Tomorrow we're going to have all of our previews for week 7. I'm going to go through each conference and do our previews, so make sure you stay tuned for those. And thanks for watching this video. Stay tuned for more here on the SG1 Sports YouTube channel.